So a common question that people have is, what happens when people get caught lying in court? And is there any punishment for it? And generally speaking, no, there isn't really any punishment for lying in court. But on occasion, somebody gets caught lying in court, and the popular representations of what happens when people get caught in court are mostly inaccurate. You know, if you're old enough, you remember a show called, Ironsides, with a guy named Perry Mason, who's a great attorney, and he would catch people lying, and they'd be on the stand, and they would just instantly recant and say, "I did it, and I do it again," and it's kind of hilarious and dramatic, but it's not at all actually the way that it works. What happens when people get caught lying in court is they double down, and they keep lying, and they lie all the way through the consequence. So a judge says, "I don't find your account credible." Judges don't call people liars. They're polite almost to a fault. The only time I once saw that was the judge actually said something like, "I don't believe you," and that was the most dramatic I've ever seen. Because judges tend to be very judge-like in their demeanor. So somebody gets caught, the judge says, "I am finding you, guilty of," or not guilty, but "I'm finding that you've committed fraud, and, you have been found to have done this," and then they get a consequence. They have to pay money or something happens. And at the end of it, they just walk out of court and they keep lying. They go out of the court and they say, "I didn't lose. That's not what happened. What really happened is this. The judge decided in my favor." So it's really important to understand what happens when liars get caught. The most common form of lying that stems out of being caught lying is gaslighting, where it's like, I didn't get caught lying. That's not what happened. And it's become much more prevalent and a very, very critical problem.